Welcome everyone to Jump Drive Minds. I am Ian, and this is my good friend Sean.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, you might know me from a channel called Gaming Wildlife. I have moved on from that point, and we are doing a new channel here called Jump Drive Minds. We're both geeks and nerds from various walks of life. Sean knows a lot about comic books and video games and movies, and I know a bit about movies and video games. So this is a podcast by the name of Geeks Against The Machine. The whole purpose of this podcast is to just talk about geek culture stuff, that sort of thing. Sean, you want to tell people about yourself, who you are?
Yes, this is Sean, also known as the Lone Road One, also known as the Alternative President.
He comes up with names for himself.
Yes, this is my alternative facts. I'm living in the world of alternative facts, therefore I can be the president. That is who I decided I am. No,
That's fine.
but yeah, I'm also a big geek. Like Ian said, I follow a lot of things pretty closely. A lot of worlds pretty closely, the world's video games, the industry there. Follow a lot of news about movies and the industries there, comic books too. I follow pretty much a lot of geek culture industries relatively closely. So we felt it would be a great idea to see if we could get a podcast together and talk about these things with each other and see what you guys think and get you guys' opinions as well. So
yeah. All right. So let us begin. There we go.
Epic.
That is a beer that my girlfriend bought me, which I'm very happy to have.
Oh man, I had to cut back on beer.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh, did I tell? I don't even know if I told you. Did I tell you I found out I'm diabetic now?
Oh shoot, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's no biggie. I just have to take a pill every day about it. But yeah, I'm not like major diabetic, to the point where you have to inject insulin or stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's a new thing.
Yeah. No, that actually happened to a family member of mine who I will not name on here because of various reasons. But yeah, a similar thing happened to them. So yeah, that's something I gotta watch out for myself. But as it turns out, I am not diabetic. I've actually gone to the doctor and checked, so that's good. But anyway, well, I hope you get better, Sean.
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. It's probably the best thing that happened to me finding that out, because man, I've been getting incredibly healthy, incredibly fit. I got a lot. You should see me, man. I've lost a ton of weight.
Cool.
It's ridiculous. So I'm actually happy about it.
Yeah. All right. So let's begin with we got a list of stuff that we wanted to talk about. The first one is the Spider-Man video game that's coming up.
Yes.
So I've got some various feelings about the Spider-Man game, but a big thing that a lot of people are talking about are the DLC controversy. The feelings about game monetization, that sort of thing. This tends to come up a lot with video game stuff. Sean, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, basically the gist of the whole thing is that people are growing rapidly upset with the current state of the game industry as far as how they monetize games post-sale. Mm-hmm. A lot of people seem to believe that there's a lot of nickel and diming going on, and I personally do agree that a lot of these monetization progresses and processes need to definitely be overhauled and rethought.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of the fact that they do seem relatively, I want to say insidious, but I don't know if that's the right word.
No, it's pretty insidious.
So a lot of people's gripes with the current Spider-Man game is basically just a callback to those general arguments, in that a lot of people feel that they announced the DLC for the game just recently. I want to say just within the last few days or so, this past week, and the game hasn't even come out yet. So it doesn't come out until next week.
So we're recording this on the 1st of September. So when does the game come out officially?
On September 7th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so it's about a week away.
Yeah. So when they announced it, the game's still about a week away from being released,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're announcing DLC, about 3 different packs of DLC over the next 3 months after the game releases, and the game hasn't even released yet. So a lot of people are concerned that this is content that's been developed as part of the game that's
Mm-hmm.
being cut out, and they're concerned that that's a trend that seems to be developing a lot in the game industry lately.
Now, the weird thing is, I've noticed that specific thing where a game will come out and then there's a bunch of extra DLC that's announced for it,
Mm.
that seems to be less prominent. Maybe it's just from my observation, but it seems to be less prominent in games recently than more often than not games are trying to do the whole like loot box Skinner box thing. That was definitely the big issue last year.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on that. There was a lot of backlash on the concept of the season pass. If you don't remember, if you recall that,
Yeah.
uh, where they would have you buy like all the DLC up front.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of backlash on those, and that caused people to stop with that particular practice of DLC for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
or at least ease off on it, and move over to the more loot box, Skinner box, randomized,
Micropayments.
microtransaction.
Yeah. That's which sucks because like ultimately this industry for like I guess to to be fair, the industry is constantly like asking more and more of people, and I'm guessing that expenses are going up. I can
Mm.
remember like 20 years ago buying about 18 or so years ago. I remember buying The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask for $60.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to buy just the base game of Spider-Man next week, it would cost me $60.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot has changed in 18 years. Things are way
Oh
more
yeah.
expensive. So the fact is, we're still kind of paying kind of the same price for games. Maybe it's not entirely fair that the industry is just like, oh, shoot, we're kind of hurting for, funds and whatnot. But that's like the one caveat I'll give them because in general I do think that we spend way too much on video games, especially because like the game I've been playing most recently is Stardew Valley. I don't know if you've ever
Um,
played that.
yeah, I did. I like that. I
Yeah.
love that game.
Yeah, I paid $15 for that and I've put so far 10 hours into that game and I'm going to put more hours into it later. Like that I'm getting more bang for my buck than I would if I were to buy whatever the new Call of Duty is with their Battle Royale mode.
No, you're right.
Mm.
Well, now, if correct me if I'm wrong on that one. That one does possess like a microtransaction system in it, doesn't it? Or no,
No,
am I wrong about
not that I know of. I mean, if there is, it hasn't been shoved in my face, and it must be like really well hidden. No, I don't think Stardew Valley has a microtransaction thing.
that? Might be thinking of something else, but yeah, no, I couldn't remember. I haven't played it in a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I do remember playing it. I do remember enjoying that game a lot,
Yeah.
and that is a model that I think more and more needs to be kind of encouraged, and I think that it is being encouraged. People are buying into
Mm-hmm.
that kind of model of game, and you're starting to see. But I think what is happening, especially with a lot of these third-party developers
Mm-hmm.
that are really leaning into the microtransaction model, is that their games aren't really selling
Mm-hmm.
when they try to do that.
Yeah, because like Stardew Valley was made by a small group of like indie developers, or I can't remember who specifically made it, but it was a small group of people who made that game, whereas the Spider-Man game probably has several hundred people working on it, trying
Right.
to make it. But it also just should, maybe the industry as a whole needs to kind of look at things and go, uh, like the new Call of Duty or the new Spider-Man, if it doesn't sell as well as they'd hoped, it's just like, why are you spending so much, like, if you've got several hundred people working on this one game, but you can be outsold by this, like, 12-person indie game on Steam that is a fourth of the price, maybe you should be looking at how you actually make these games, and maybe you should be changing something about that.
That's one of the major caveats I think that a lot of people are bringing up, is that it doesn't take all this to make a really great game. You look at even smaller, you know, triple A esque types of games like I can't remember, Senua's Sacrifice or Hellblade, I think they call it.
Oh yeah, Hellblade.
That was made by a relatively smaller team, much smaller than what you'd see on like your Call of Duty or your Battlefield or whatever.
Yeah.
And they made a really great game that got like rave reviews across the board, and everyone loved it. I personally didn't get a chance to play it, but I heard nothing but great things about it. Eventually, I'll get around to playing it. But a lot of people have been saying that, see, look, here's an example of a small team or a smaller team making maybe, it's not as good looking or as large a game as, say, like a Grand Theft Auto or a Call of Duty or something, but
right.
It is far superior quality. So I think what you're going to see eventually is a lot of these, especially third-party developers, are going to start taking a cue from them and start maybe splitting up these massive, teams that they have in order to have them work on multiple projects rather than just all go in on one big project.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what was the last AAA game I actually played that I really truly enjoyed, because I'm having a difficult time, especially like a lot of the games I've been playing I got off of Steam. I got from Steam sales, or they're older Nintendo titles that I've just recently picked up. Like these, I'm not buying into AAA games nearly as much because I know what the expectations are. It's like, okay, I'm probably going to have either some sort of a loot box system, some sort of a microtransaction system, maybe built in as a Skinner box, or it's entirely built around a multiplayer mode, which I don't really play. Like, okay, I'll tell you the last actual game I played. It was PUBG and Fortnite, which PUBG was made by a small group of people, and I can't remember what I spent on it, but it was like less than. It had to have been less than $30 because I must have got it. I think I got it on a Steam sale, and Fortnite is free. Like their battle royale mode you can just download. You don't have to pay a full price for a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. I think the last game I played, AAA game. Well, I did play God of War. Sure. That wasn't that long ago.
But that was quite a long game though.
Yeah, but again, there's another game that's not taking advantage of the whole Skinner box economy thing, and the only game that I think of I played recently, I think I played Destiny 2, and that was marred with all of that, and that was a game that I quickly fell out of relatively quickly as compared to like another game that like God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn. Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Love Breath of the Wild.
Or Mario, or things of that nature, which I think it just goes to show you that, these games, these marketing, they're basically just marketing schemes. They're basically just schemes to get your money. And it's seeming like to more and more people are kind of waking up to this sentiment that, these game companies, they really are just out to get your money, and they'll take your money and give you nothing if they can.
Yeah, it is. Especially, I'm not really paying that much attention to E3 this year. Like, when I was watching a bunch of the trailers, I sort of like glossed over a lot of the stuff, and the only game that I really thought, oh, this might be kind of fun, is Fallout 76. That, I mean, it essentially looks like a lot of those online crafting games that are your Rusts, your 7 Days to Die, the Forest, stuff like that, except that it's Fallout Online, except that it's Fallout Online about 8 years after Fallout Online would have been relevant.
Right. That's what I'm really interested in that game to see what it becomes, because they haven't really said much about it.
You can kind of just infer by it's an online game, so you got to think about, okay, what's popular right now with, say, like Conan Exiles, or or just any of those other online games I discussed. It's like, okay, there's going to be a crafting system, there's going to be a base management system, and you're probably going to, and it looks like it's going to be much smaller in focus, like you and a small group of people versus another small group of people. Like, it's not going to be hundreds of people on one map. It's going to be like a couple dozen, maybe.
So, and again, this is just I personally haven't really looked into the news on Fallout 76 much. I've been kind of looking into the news on like lots of the other games that have been coming out. I still find E3 relatively interesting, just for the sake of, it's telling on where the industry's heads are at.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, that's a perfectly reasonable reason to watch E3, to just sort of go, okay, what are you people trying to do? Because ultimately, what it boils down to, like, I don't really trust a lot of game reviewers other than like Yahtzee Croshaw. I think I can always trust to sort of be like, okay, here's the honest answer about this. I can always trust like Jim Sterling. I used to be able to trust Total Biscuit, who passed away earlier this year, which Total Biscuit was awesome. I was really sad to hear about that. But in general, I think one of the things that I love about the world we have now is that being a game reviewer is just like, there's the most honest way to review games is to simply watch live streams of them. Because if a game doesn't work, you can't hide that. Someone's gonna, some average dude or Markiplier, or I don't know, like a big YouTuber like Markiplier, or some average dude on Twitch is just gonna be like, I'm gonna play this game, and if it completely does not work, then you're just like, well, we can see it doesn't work because he's trying to play it from his home computer.
It doesn't work,
Yeah, but if they play it and it looks like it's a lot of fun, we're just like, oh, that's about as honest as you can get because we're actually watching someone play it.
You know what? That is actually a very poignant point. I was actually literally just watching a video not too long ago. I think it was yesterday. And it was a video. Now, it was a marketing video from one of these companies. And I think it was Spider-Man. It was a Spider-Man video, and they were just playing the game. But they brought in some guy I'd never even heard of before. But apparently he's, I guess, a famous rapper or something. I've never heard of this guy before. I'm sorry. It's one of the worlds I don't follow, ironically, is the world of rap music.
But you're a black man. You have to.
Right? So they sat him down and they got him to play this game. And he was just so excited. He was just having a ball. It was like, that's the perfect kind of marketing that you can do. Just sit somebody down. If your game is good, just sit them down, let them play the game, and show their genuine reactions. And this guy was like, holy crap, this is awesome. And the moment I knew that it was a perfect piece of marketing was he did something amazing in the game, and then he turns to the guy that's like, I guess, from the marketing team. He says, when does this game come out? It wasn't like prompted. It was just genuine. When does this come out? I'm like, okay, he wants to play this game. So I'm down. I definitely think that this is something I want to play.
Right.
So I think that's the best thing. That's the best kind of marketing you could possibly do.
Right. The big appeal of video games is that they are interactive. Like, if I were to show you a series of clips of a movie, that's all you need to be able to tell you whether or not a movie is good. But with video games, you have to actually see someone interacting with the game before I can know whether or not it's going to be good. I need to see, like, what am I going to extract from this level of enjoyment? Because usually I want to be able to put in, like, more than just 2 or 3 hours into a game. I want to be able to clock in, like, 10 at minimum, if not more. And if I can't do that, I'm just like, well, I mean, it was kind of cool, but I don't know if it was worth all the, time and money that I put into it, if it's just going to be, like, a few hours.
Because, I mean, and this might not be the case for some people, but I think for most of the people, especially of, just regular average incomes, purchasing this game is kind of an investment.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's one of the reasons why, back when I was doing the web series, I was never able to really do a review show. because it's just like, if I'm going to do a review show, it means that I have to clock in $60 on this brand new game that came out, and I'm going to have to play it for at least like 5 to 10 hours to get a real sense of what the game's about. And I have to do that before writing a script, editing a video, that whole thing, and reviews, and I don't have the money for that. I am poor. I'm poor as hell, man.
You're not alone. You are not alone. I tell you, man, it is even out here. You know, I've got a relatively comfortable job that pays relatively comfortably well, and even still, it is a plan. It is like a months-long plan.
Right.
It's like to figure out, okay, I can put this here if I save this money here, and if I put that together and I save it, then I'll have just enough to go buy this game.
Exactly.
And I think that's the case for most people.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Steam sales are such a huge thing, because people like I invested, I want to say like $800 or so into my desktop about 7 years ago, and it was a desktop that was built by a friend of mine who did this as a hobby, and it was like top of the line back then. And this thing still runs because I've been able to like toy with it a little bit over the years and make sure it runs really well, and so it can run No Man's Sky no problem. It can run Crysis no problem.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, it does that with me doing a lot of babying with it, so that I can make sure, okay, I've got enough to be able to invest in this. But even still, like, trying to invest a bunch of money into a brand new game, like spending $60 for Fallout 4 immediately when it comes out, or spending $60 on the Metal Gear Solid game, or spending $60 on the new Spider-Man game. It's like, that is a lot to invest in something. If I go to a movie, even movie prices are obscenely huge, but even if I go to a movie, I can at least go with my friends, I can at least go with my girlfriend, and I'm spending like $10, which is high, but not like, I can
astronomically high.
Yeah, I can do that. If I'm like, hell, even I'm trying to remember, Breath of the Wild, I think I paid full price for that. And granted, I've probably clocked in 60 hours on Breath of the Wild, but that was still like $60 to be able to play that game is a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's mainly what the general consensus of the problem that people have with these monetization schemes comes from, is the fact that it's difficult enough to scrape together the funding to buy this game for your average gamer. Then on top of that, in order for them to get what anybody would consider an enjoyable experience out of the game, you want them to pay the base price of the game again, essentially.
Yeah, so like, one of the...
They have to pay sometimes $120 just to get whatever the game's got.
I know, it's... And people can't invest, like, $60 is already a huge investment for a brand new game, but then there's also DLC and microtransactions on top of that. Most people aren't going to be able to do that. And gaming in general has always sort of... It's not supposed to be a thing that only the elite do. Anyone can pick up a video game and play it, and it's supposed to be for the everyman, but the price makes it so that if you want to keep up with modern trends, and here's what the industry is doing right now, like $60 a week for a brand new game, or even $60 a month for a brand new game, is just absurd.
Very high cover charge to get into this club.
Yes. I really I haven't had a chance to play Horizon Zero Dawn yet. I really want to. I just don't have the money for it.
Oh man, I wish I had known that. I would have sent it to you before I traded it in.
Oh well. But anyway, the other thing I'm looking at the whole Spider-Man game. I'm not saying this game looks bad. It actually looks pretty good, but I'm concerned about the whole like, how do I put this? The original Spider-Man game, or not the original one, but the one that everyone tries to copy is Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2
2.
for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox.
Hmm.
And that's a really fun game. But what made it a really fun game is the web slinging aspect, because it was sort of treated uh,
This
like a
this is
game in
how you would really
itself.
this is how you would really web swing, and
Right.
this is a fun way to traverse this open world.
But it's not just a fun way to traverse this open world, it's almost like a completely different gameplay aspect. Like
Mm.
you can run around the rooftops collecting stuff or trying race challenges, or like there's an entire aspect of the game where you don't have to do the missions, you don't have to do combat, but the web slinging aspect is a really just fun part of the game. But the issue that every Spider-Man game, like Web of Shadows or the what was the one where it like split into four different versions of Spider-Man?
Oh yeah, Shattered Dimensions.
Shattered Dimensions, and to a certain extent, the new Spider-Man game is that they're focusing really heavily on the combat. It's like, look at all this cool stuff we can do with the combat. Look at it, they're trying to be more like the Batman Arkham series, which is a
Mm.
fun series, but you've got this gameplay aspect that is wholly unique to Spider-Man. Like, almost it's almost like Just Cause 3 is the Spider-Man game that Spider-Man wished it could be. Does that
Mm.
make sense? Have you ever played the Just
Well,
Cause series?
Yes, I have. I
Yeah.
actually really one of the things about Just Cause 3 I liked the most was the traversal system.
Yeah.
Because it was just once you got the hang of what you were doing, it
Mm-hmm.
was actually incredibly fun. And like you said, it's a kind of a game within the game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think and again, this is just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think the traversal seems to be kind of a big focus for them. And again, this is something that you can't really find out until I guess you play it. So
Right. We don't. I mean,
I'll
we have no
once I
idea.
play it, I could be completely changing my tune on that. But
Yeah.
from the looks of the traversal in the game, it actually does look quite a bit like they're focusing a lot on that traversal and making a game out of it, because it looks like there's a lot of different things that you can do there. So I'm again, it's something I'm really looking forward to seeing for myself and seeing if this is actually going to come to fruition.
Right. And
I'm
they,
hoping so.
yeah, they could make a whole separate game out of the whole web slinging thing. Like, I'm trying to. It's been a while since I played Spider-Man 2 for the GameCube, which is the system I had it on. But I remember, like, you could do racing challenges, there were collectibles, there was just a bunch of stuff that you could do up on the New York rooftops. And then there was also the, like, combat missions that you would do to need to actually complete the game. But it's sort of like with Shadow of Mordor, how there are these missions that you have to do to complete the game, but the whole like orc. Um, I'm trying to think of a name for it. The orc like
It's just the whole orc acquisition system.
yeah, the orc acquisition system was once again a completely separate game within that was way more fun than anything else the game had. The game threw at you, because it was a lot more organic. There was a lot more. Like it almost felt like an RPG
Yeah,
thing within its
it
own
was.
game that was more fun to play than the actual missions.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a major RPG element to that game. And I think, and correct me if I'm, Shadow of Mordor was the first one, correct?
Uh
'Cause I think
yes.
Shadow of War was the second one.
Yes, Shadow
Where
of,
they
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and that's just a testament to this whole thing that I'm talking about, where they had such an excellent system in place that was just like like you said, like we keep saying, a game within a game, where it's just here's an aspect of the game that you can just spend hours with and not even touch what's considered to be the main meat of the experience.
Right.
And here they go in the sequel where they completely, I guess, just either mishandle it or just don't understand what they had and just kind of just
Again,
completely warp it to become something different.
right, but in Shadow of War, you could still do that orc like training thing, but the problem was is that there was a bunch of microtransactions behind
Right.
it that kind of made it a lot worse, and like it was still there, but once you get to a certain aspect in the game, it's just like, okay, I've got all these orcs, and then, oh, one of my facilities is being attacked. I need to spend money to make sure that I can repair it. The money is real money, unfortunately, that I have to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And
yeah,
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying it's very rare that you come into a situation where somebody inserts microtransactions into the game and it makes it better.
Right. But with the Spider-Man thing, I think the reason like everyone liked it was that the whole web slinging aspect and the organic feel of just I'm just going to go around New York, I'm just going to do some fun stuff is what everyone remembers fondly. Like, when was the last time you heard someone talk about Web of Shadows or Shattered Dimensions?
I haven't actually.
Yeah, and that's because
other than considering comparing it to this particular game that's coming out.
Right. And the problem is that those had a lot of combat stuff. They had a lot of like cutscenes and mission stuff, and they were very story centric, but no one really remembers them because they ended up just kind of being generic superhero games. Whereas Spider-Man 2 was able to transcend just being a generic superhero game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just hope that the new Spider-Man can do that as well.
I think the most important thing that the game could do, as long as it does this one thing, I think it'll succeed. As long as it makes people feel the way they felt when they played Spider-Man 2. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to copy Spider-Man 2, beat for beat. But just if it can make people feel the same way they felt when they first started swinging in Spider-Man 2, I think that it'll succeed. But, jury's still out. We'll see, I guess, next week.
Yeah. So, another topic that we wanted to talk about was the best popular film at the Oscars.
Oh, wow, yes. I remember. Okay, so this was something that, I guess, kind of set the internet on fire. So to speak, in a way. At least it set a lot of fans of the Academy Awards on fire. Because basically what's happening is they're trying to create this category for films that I guess you wouldn't regularly see these films at the Academy Awards.
Right.
So you're obviously, the films that most people are suggesting or thinking that are going to get thrown into here are like Black Panther and Infinity War.
Yeah, it's essentially a way for them to be able to show popular movies that people actually saw, as opposed to the like indie films made by a small group of people that a dozen or so people saw. Like, do you know what it actually takes to get a movie nominated for an Oscar?
Oh, those for-your consideration campaigns are a monster.
Yeah. The to actually get nominated for an Oscar, your film has to have been, there's like a very specific week, I want to say in August, that it has to show at least like one of these cinemas in Los Angeles. It has to be shown for a very specific group of people, and it has to have at least one showing. And if it does all that, then it can get nominated for an Oscar, which means that pretty much any film can get nominated as long as they go through this weird rigmarole. But the problem is that once again, like the whole Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions thing, name an Oscar-winning film from the last 10 years.
Let me think.
So already we're having problems.
I'm having a problem just thinking of the last one. Oh, Moonlight won last year, didn't it?
Yeah. And I saw Moonlight. Moonlight's a fine movie. I will probably never really think of Moonlight ever again.
Oh, and you know what? Here's another one. 12 Years a Slave was one. That won Best Picture. I still, to this day, have not seen that movie. And I'm not ashamed to admit it either, because of the fact that I know for a fact most people probably didn't see that movie, and the people that did only saw it because it won an Oscar.
Right. It's absolutely true with a lot of these films. Like, I remember in 2008, the movie that won was Slumdog Millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
Wait, no, 2008 was it?
Say what?
2008 was it Slumdog Millionaire? I don't believe.
Yeah, I thought so. It was.
No, because Dark Knight came out that year and it lost, and or people were saying that Dark Knight should. Well, it wasn't even nominated first of all, and people were saying that it should have been.
Mhm.
But
Oh
oh
no, wait,
god,
you're right. It's 2009.
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it was like, when was the last time you thought about that movie?
What, Slumdog Millionaire?
Yeah.
I haven't. Oh god, I don't even think I've even heard anybody mention Slumdog Millionaire, like even in passing or as a joke, in probably 10 years.
Right. And
Since it came out.
and by comparison, when was the last time you thought about Dark Knight?
I think I literally just watched Dark Knight yesterday.
Yeah. And so there is, like, it's obvious there's this weird disconnect between films that win Oscars or films that get nominated for Oscars and films that people actually see.
Right.
Like, the thing is, and I can understand that disconnect, because films that win Oscars are typically trying to do something different with the film medium. They're trying to tell a different kind of story. They're trying to tell something that is obscure, or trying to do something different with the medium that is trying to evolve how we create the art form. And films that everyone goes to see are just trying to be like big, fun popcorn films. And I can
Right.
understand wanting to have an award show for saying, hey, these people tried something new, as opposed to, like, I love Marvel films, I really do, but like, I've seen those kind of movies 100 times before, even before Iron Man 1 came out. I had seen that film several
Yeah.
times. Like, the Marvel films have never surprised me. They're tons of fun, but they're not really surprising. Whereas movies like Slumdog Millionaire or 12 Years a Slave or Moonlight are trying to do something different with the medium that maybe we haven't really seen before. And I can understand, from a certain extent, why the Academy would want to do a popular, the best popular film versus the best film category. I understand why they're trying to do that. I also feel like the Oscars in general are no longer relevant culturally.
Yeah, no, that I think that's part of the reason why they're trying to do it.
Yeah.
Is because they've lost a lot of relevance with with people, because most people are just going to see these these big budget popcorny films because they're the events. That's what you want to go do. It's not even just about going to see this movie, which I think people like Marvel and other studios, they've kind of, like Mission Impossible, whoever made that, I think it's Paramount. They've kind of mastered this concept that it's not necessarily even just about the movie itself. It's about the fact that, you want to go see this movie, you want to get all your friends together, you want to hang out, and you want to have something to talk about that was fun and exciting. And that's those movies to a T, really. It's just, oh man, could you remember? You remember when this happened? Or, oh wow, do you see that happen? Did you see when he did this? And that's the kind of movie that people are going to see these days. And I think the Academy is basically just trying to grab, I guess, a slice of that, so that they can stay relevant in the popular culture, I guess.
Now, one thing I'm wondering is, because the Academy Awards doesn't really like to hand out stuff to, they don't like to hand out stuff to superhero films because they're, big popcorn. I'm wondering if the reason they're trying to do Best Popular Film this year is maybe influenced by the cultural, like, explosion of Black Panther. I started.
Oh no, I have no doubt that that's probably a big part of it, and personally, I think that is why they actually created this award, to give it to Black Panther.
Yeah.
The problem that I think a lot of people are having with that is it's the concept of creating a separate but equal award and giving it to a black guy.
Oh no. That's not good.
It's a bit problematic, to say the least.
It is like, no, you're absolutely right. That is like, Oh, here we have the not really best Oscar, but kind of best Oscar for this cast of black people who made this cool black people film. Oh wait,
Oh,
this feels a bit like segregation.
it's so well spoken for a black movie.
Yeah, it kind yeah, it kind of feels like that a little bit.
So I think that that's part of what the major backlash coming at them is from that, and then in respect to that, also the concept of just the fact that it kind of says to the superhero movie, we're never going to let you into the best picture category, no matter how good you are.
Oh yeah,
Like a lot of people would say, Dark Knight, obviously one of the greatest movies that ever came out the year it came out, which was I'm pretty sure it's 2008. So I think that was a really incredible film, and a lot of people think that it deserved definitely to at least be considered
yeah,
an Oscar that year, especially when you take a look at all the other films that came that were nominated that year. I think one of them was Michael Clayton with George Clooney.
yeah. I remember that
Like,
film.
it's like, when was the last time you ever even heard of that movie?
I know. It's yeah. It's there.
But I mean, compared to like a movie like Dark Knight, not just by virtue of the fact that the Dark Knight was popular,
Mhm.
but by virtue of how good that movie was.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Chris Nolan, quite possibly at his best, with with a film that most people would have been like, this is supposed to be just a popcorn flick, but he made quite possibly one of the best movies ever made that year.
Yeah.
And I think what this award, this best popular picture award, says to the general public is that superhero movies can't ever possibly be as good as Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Montana, or whatever.
Yeah. Which have you seen that movie?
I did, but only because I really wanted to see what all the hype was about.
I wasn't really a fan. I didn't really like it.
I wasn't impressed by it, but I mean, it. Don't get me wrong, it tells an interesting story, and but it's just not a story that I was relatively all that interested in.
The best way I can describe Three Billboards is that it's one of those acting movies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there was a film a while ago before Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away called Doubt, which
Yes.
is an okay movie, kind of forgettable, but has some stellar performances.
Yes.
Because, like, Philip Seymour Hoffman puts his all into the films that he did, but this one especially, he just like gets so intense and enraged in a couple of scenes in trying to deal with the situation, and Meryl Streep, who is almost always just like phenomenal in any role that she does, and both of them were great performances in a movie that is dull, boring,
Yeah.
really bland. Three Billboards is kind of the same thing. The actress, I am completely blanking on her name.
I can't even think of her name either.
Yeah.
I can pull it. I can see if I can pull it up for you.
Yeah, but she, like, her performance in that is like intense. It's like really like kind of scary at times and really good. And the movie itself, I just don't really like.
Frances McDormand.
Frances McDormand, thank you. Because like once again, it's one of those acting films. It's like this
Yeah.
is a film where people are going to put their heart and soul into this story that's really not very good because it's like it's a shitty situation. You've got Dax Shepard's character. Is it Dax Shepard? Is that the guy I'm thinking of? He was the racist cop.
I think that was Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, you're right. The two look very similar, but
They do.
yeah, they do.
I'm looking at a picture of him right now, and I'm like, you know what? He kind of does look like Dax Shepard.
Yeah.
That's sad.
And also, it's because I've been watching this show called The Good Place, which is a really funny show, and Dax Shepard shows up in an episode of The Good Place, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's Dax Shepard. And then I talk about Sam Rockwell. It's like, no, wait, those are two different people.
But yeah, I agree. I think definitely it's a movie that's designed to be looked at as an Oscar contender.
Yes, it is. It is kind of an Oscar bait film with kind of a like. I'm not a huge fan of the storyline, and even some of the characters, like Frances McDormand's character. Granted, she's sympathetic, but she's also just kind of rude and mean, and really just like comes off as one of those characters that people go, "Oh, look, it's her again. What is she going to be upset about this time?" And she comes across as really unlikable, but the performance is really well done. It's one of those
Right,
performance films. I'm
right.
going to give a performance, and it's
We
like,
just need an excuse
yeah,
to perform.
yes,
And that's what this movie is. It's
yes,
just an excuse to perform so that people can look at us and say, wow, that was an excellent performance.
exactly,
Versus, this is an excellent performance that informs the story and
exactly.
makes the whole overall experience that much more valuable.
Mm.
Like, for instance, oh God, I wish I could think of his name. Aaron Eckhart.
Oh yeah,
So going back to Dark Knight
mm.
again. So Aaron Eckhart, and there's that scene in Dark Knight where he's flipping the coin and he's got the guy and he's gonna shoot him. He's like, heads, I'm gonna shoot you, and tails, I'm not. But he's not actually gonna shoot him.
Yeah,
And he's just the emotion on his face, and then Batman shows up and he's like, I'm gonna turn myself in, and Aaron Eckhart's like, you can't give in, you just can't. And that whole interplay between them, I'm like, that's actual acting right there. That's stellar performance, and it informs the story.
yes,
You feel his anger, you feel his frustration right now.
mm.
He's trying to do the right thing, he's trying to fight the mob, and he's frustrated because the mob's fighting back,
Mm.
and they're trying to gun him down, they're trying to gun his woman down, and now his best asset is taking himself off the field.
Right.
So it's you could that it informs the story, and it's not just acting. He's not just acting for the point of acting. He's acting for the point of conveying something to you
Right.
that fits in this story.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great example of that. It's so just in general looking at the whole Oscar Best Popular Film Awards, I feel like this is maybe not like a last ditch effort, but just another effort the from the Academy Awards people who are trying to stay relevant in a world that seems to not really care about them because their relevance it just doesn't really matter anymore.
And it's sad because in a way, I think it used to matter. And before they started, I guess, if you want to call it that, selling themselves out.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Uh,
I
you
don't
know,
like. I don't really want to like be mad at someone for selling themselves out because well, this is kind of a crappy world. If you need to make a buck, make a buck.
Yeah,
Okay.
which isn't a problem.
Yeah.
I think the only time it becomes a problem is when you sacrifice your own integrity to do it.
Sure,
Uh,
but
to the point where it's just like completely contrary to something that you stand for.
right.
It's like you stand for you stand for a certain level of, like, for instance, if you're going to endorse a product, endorse a product that you actually believe in. Endorse something that you'll okay, I see this. This is something that either I can believe in or I can understand why people would need this, or I can understand why people would want this. This is something that I think is good for the kind of people that it's for. So yeah, I'll put my name on that and say, yeah, go ahead and buy this thing because this is something that I know somebody out there who wants this kind of thing is gonna use and get a good value out of it. But if you're putting your name on something that's like a piece of garbage by any standards, and it's just gonna fall apart as soon as it gets into somebody's hands, that's what I would consider selling out.
Yeah.
And selling out isn't just taking a paycheck for a job. It's taking a paycheck for a job that in your heart is just, this is wrong.
Yeah. It's
And I think the Oscars kind of have done that to themselves, where you hear a lot of this about these for your consideration campaigns, where they're basically just taking free things, free movies, free tickets, free swag, just for the purposes of getting a movie in front of their eyes so it can be considered to be nominated.
Yeah, but apparently that's just the way that it's always been done for the Oscars, as it turns out. Oh yeah,
I didn't think it was that way originally, but maybe it was. I don't know.
You know, the original Oscars actually had a Best Popular Film category.
Yes, I do know that. Yeah, I did hear that recently. They did have that, and they stopped it for the very reasons that we're kind of bringing up right now.
Right.
Is that it was kind of inconsiderate to the popular films, as if they didn't belong there.
Right.
And a lot of people were confused about like what's popular, what does that mean? As opposed to Best Picture, what does that mean? What kind of movies are we looking at for each of these categories? And it just brought a lot of confusion, so they got rid of it, I heard.
Right. I remember there was also in contention the idea of which one was the legit winner. It's right. The popular film won, that's obviously the Best Picture. No, the Best Picture won, that's obviously the Best Picture. Right. And it was just a question of which one was the more legitimate one. Like, an example I heard someone say was in 2015, I think Room, the one with Brie Larson. Didn't that win Best Picture that year?
If I'm not mistaken, it did.
Yeah. But it was going up against Mad Max Fury Road, which got a lot of Oscar nominations that year. And so it's just like, once again, that's the whole contention of Mad Max Fury Road was a big, huge popcorn film that also happened to be kind of a, pro-feminist, mouthpiece as well. Whereas Room was more of a, intimate, small, drama about a
woman and her child.
Yeah. And so it's just like, which one would have been the true contender, the big budget action fun film, or the small intimate drama that tried to do something different.
And I like that particular competition right there, because what it says to me is that any film, regardless of how big your budget is, can be here. If you have a big budget popcorn film, it doesn't automatically preclude it from being a part of this. And if you have a small budget film that's just centered around, two people in a room, then that doesn't preclude it either. You both can be here. You both can stand on this same stage and both vie for that same prize. And that's what I think creating the Best Popular Film Award or Best Achievement in Popular Film, whatever they're calling it, creating that award takes that away, in a sense. It's saying that, suppose, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that, I don't know, Wonder Woman, the new Wonder Woman film comes out.
Yeah.
And let's say it's quite possibly the most awesome, just impactful, just emotionally moving standout film of the year, and they're just not going to even possibly consider it in Best Picture category because they're going to throw it into Best Popular Film.
Right. It was the Pixar.
Not saying it will be, but
yeah. Well, it was the Pixar issue for a while. It's one of the reasons why Best Animated Film became such a big category for the Academy, because it's just like, we need to be able to give Pixar something, because it's not fair that Toy Story didn't get a Best Picture nomination. So then a lot of the later Pixar films would get Best Animated Feature.
Yeah.
Which, once again, it comes to the point where it's just like, oh, last year Ferdinand was nominated. Boss Baby, the Academy Award nominated movie.
Boss Baby.
Boss frickin' Baby. Yeah, of course Coco won, because Coco's the only good animated film that came out last year.
Which is, I think if they don't have enough quality movies, don't nominate anything.
No, right.
Just let's say if there's only one standout quality animated film that year, just give it the award. Yeah. It's just like, well, you came out and you were worthy of a nomination. Nobody else was. The award's automatically yours by default.
Yes, and Coco was a great film.
It was.
But Boss Baby?
It did not need...
Why?
It did not need that... That's like just putting up, racers in the race knowing they're going to lose because they're racing against Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just grab a couple of high school teenagers who smoke and let's put them in a a 100-meter dash against Usain Bolt, and
Right.
just for the sake of having the race be run. You don't need to run the race. Just say Usain Bolt is the fastest person around.
There you go. Done.
We're done, and nobody's gonna begrudge you that either. I think everyone would have said, "Yep, that was the best animated film that came out this year." No doubt. We didn't even need to discuss anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the problem with the Oscars is that they have the same problem, is that, they will throw up some, just random films that no one's ever even really heard of,
Yeah.
that show even a remotest sign of promise, when there's clearly some more obvious film that may not necessarily be, of the, art house film variety,
Right.
or performance vehicle variety,
Yeah.
that it'd be just as deserving, and they're gonna throw that in the best popular film category.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why oh shoot, his name's completely escaping me. Who's the guy who did Gollum?
Oh, Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis, yeah. It's one of the reasons why he's never been nominated for an Oscar, despite the fact that he really should, because a lot of his performances are just so incredibly well done. But it also brings into contention, well, his performances are fantastic, but there's also 100 other people that had to animate him to be Caesar, that had to animate him to be Gollum, that had to animate him to be King Kong, and his performances were great, but there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it as well. So do we give him a Best Actor nomination, or do we give him Best Ensemble Performance? What do we do with that?
Well, I think the simple solution in that particular case would be nominate him for Best Actor, nominate them for Best Digital Effects. Boom. They're both nominated.
Yeah.
And I think that would take a lot of the, pain out of that whole situation, just by virtue of the fact that, they've given this well-deserving individual a nomination. But again, this is also something as simple as, let's just come up with a Best Performance Capture award, and then if nobody else does a Performance Capture award, just give it to him.
I'm trying to think of what the other performance captures would be. Actually, you know what you could do? You could do Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo. That's actually a really decent performance capture.
Yes.
Because that Hulk. Oh, or even what's his Brolin.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh man, that was epic.
Thanos. Yeah, the Thanos performance was pretty outstanding.
I will say this: if that movie does not get some kind of technical effects award nomination, then we know the whole thing's BS.
Yeah,
because that was spectacular. Yes. I believed that character was there. You could not tell me that character was not there. There were some other characters in the film that were kind of shoddy, but that one was perfect. That was spot on.
Absolutely.
That was a great job by the technical people, by everybody involved in that. That was just magic.
All right, so we're getting close to about an hour, so I want to wrap up one more topic for us to talk about, because we had a list of several different topics. I want to talk about the Kelly Tran and Starfire situation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we're about to go into serious mode, people. Brace yourselves. So
we'll try not to get too serious, but it's gonna get serious.
Well, yeah,
folks.
it's gonna get serious, because this is something that geek culture has to deal with. We need to figure out a way to deal with this stuff. So I don't know much about the Starfire problem other than she's it's a TV, or is it a film adaptation or a Netflix adaptation, or
okay, so what's going on is apparently, I don't know if you've heard about the DC Universe app, which is basically going to be like a streaming service where all the DC Universe films and TV shows, and all their stuff is going to go on this app now.
Okay,
Basically, they're trying to compete with Marvel.
Future episode idea: all these different companies trying to do streaming services.
Yeah, yeah. We should talk about that eventually.
Yeah,
but okay. So DC's trying to do it by getting all their content together, and this is like not just DCEU movies, but every DC movie in the past. So all the old Batman movies, all the old Superman movies are going to go in there. The Wonder Woman TV show, all the old Batman TV shows, the animated series, all that. So they're getting all that together, and they're also going to come up with they're also creating some new content. And that new content is, one of the new contents that are being included is a show based on a live action version of the Teen Titans.
Oh, right. I've seen the trailer for this.
Yeah, the whole F Batman trailer thing.
Fuck Batman. It's just like, oh.
And I'm Robin. I'm gonna shoot 5 dudes, and then I'm gonna say fuck Batman.
Can I just say real quick that show does not look very good.
No, it doesn't. Which is a legitimate gripe that I will totally agree with anybody. If anybody says the show just doesn't look good, and that's their main problem with it, is that it just doesn't look good, I will 100% agree with you on that. But it doesn't look like anybody's put in the amount of effort necessary to make this. It's the Inhumans of DC is what this is.
Yeah.
Really. But that being said, what's happened with this is that one of the actors in the show, and I will see if I can pull up her name, but she's playing Starfire in the show. And of course, in, I guess, an attempt, not even really an attempt to do anything. She's an African American actress, basically.
But Sean, isn't Starfire a white lady in the original concept of that show?
No, quite honestly, she's an orange alien, which is why I don't understand why people are so upset about this.
Oh, then it's not really a problem.
Exactly, it shouldn't actually even matter.
Sean, we need to get the orange people in on this.
Yeah, let's like orange lives matter, folks. Which is not insignificant, but okay. Anna Diop, I think is her name.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Anna Diop, I think is her name. Okay. I'm trying to pull this up right now. But anyway, she's gotten basically a lot of heat, which some of it is legitimate, I will admit, because of the fact, like, not directed at her,
right,
but directed at the people who've put this together. And I think that's the problem, is that people are targeting her for the perceived problems with this character's depiction. Some of the pictures, I mean, if you are able to pull them up, they just look horrendous.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the Marvel's Inhumans of DC.
Right.
Where it's like nobody gave any thought to this costume.
Right. The Starfire outfit kind of makes it look like it's in more of like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, but more of an urban setting is kind of what they're making it look like.
She looks like she's getting dressed to go out to a nightclub.
Yeah, exactly.
Which could very well be the case. And this whole thing can be blown out of proportion.
Right. It also is like, they seem to be doing that a lot. Like, didn't they do that with Joker? Jared Leto's Joker. He was sort of a skeezy nightclub owner, sort of that like late night meth head style of Joker, which which honestly I don't hate the idea, just the execution wasn't great.
Yeah, it's like props for going. They're trying something new and different.
Yeah,
I will always, I will always give you a shot if you're going to try to show me something that I haven't seen before. But
yeah, I mean, like, but they're also kind of taking that Joker back to the whole, like, he's a gangster kind of thing, like what Jack Nicholson did with the 1989 movie,
which I liked as well.
Yeah,
that was a good idea.
And so this is, and from what it seems like, this is more of a reinterpretation of Starfire from the original Teen Titans show, the Teen Titans Go show, and now this new show just called Titans.
Yeah, and ironically, if that is what they're going for, like if this is a whole thing where she's like just going to a club or something and that's the only reason for this outfit,
Yeah.
it makes sense with her character portrayal in the comics because she was kind of like in the comics she used to be like a model, like a supermodel.
Okay.
Interesting, but like again, these comics are weird.
Right.
But as Bob likes to say.
But we need to get to the crux of the matter is that people are attacking her on social media because of the way that her character, which by the way, the show's not out yet. All we have is a trailer and set photos of her in her costume.
And I don't even think they're official set photos either.
No.
They're just, set photos taken by some idiot with a camera phone.
Right.
So, it's not, they did the same thing with the Shazam costume not that long ago. And now when we see it in the actual trailer, it actually looks really awesome.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion. But with her, a lot of the problem is people are attacking her for what they perceive is a problem with the presentation of the character, which, one, isn't her fault.
No.
She's just an actress that took a job. So if anybody has a problem with the depiction of the character, like a legitimate problem with the depiction of the character being depicted in a way that you don't like, then take that up with the showrunners. But a lot of the problem seems to be that it's because she's African American, people are going after her. And I really don't understand why this sort of thing starts happening. I mean, it's happened to Kelly Marie Tran, as we also said.
Yep.
When with her depiction, in Star Wars, which is, again, if you're mad at that character being involved in Star Wars, which I personally, I don't like the character, but I'm not mad at her about that. That's an issue with whoever wrote the movie.
Right.
That's an issue with the directors. That's an issue with the wardrobe, or the characterization. That's not Kelly Marie Tran's fault.
No,
she just took a job.
Right, but it's a hell of a lot easier for jackasses on the internet to basically go, I like these people have an Instagram, and I can go on there and I can tell them, hey, fuck you for doing this thing that you like
we're paid to do.
Yeah, it's so much easier to go after the actresses who portrays these than, say, for example, the people who actually have power. But of course, if you went after the people who actually have power, there could be retaliations, and that might be bad.
Ironically, going after the people in power might result in retaliations, and that would be bad. But also, going after the people in power might actually get you something done.
Yeah.
Because if the people who wrote the story and characterized the character that way knew, hey, I'm unhappy with how you wrote and directed this character. Yeah. It should have been, in my opinion, done in a different way, blah, 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 blah. And if enough people said that same thing, then maybe that creator would go, maybe people are right. Let me consider what they're saying. I mean, but no, you go after the one person who can't do anything about it.
Right. Here's an interesting example. Has anyone gone after... Oh, shoot, I'm forgetting names again. Who's the guy who plays Danny Rand in the Iron Fist show?
Oh, crap. Oh, man, I lose that trivia round. Let me pull him up. Danny Rand, actor. And I should know his name because he's from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Finn Jones.
Yeah, Finn Jones. So... Finn Jones, oh, hang on, my messenger's beeping at me. So, yeah, Finn Jones, how come no one's gone after him for the way that Iron Fist was depicted? I'm not saying you should. You absolutely shouldn't, but a lot of people... He has nothing to do with that. Right, because he has nothing to do with that, that's the point. But why not go after him? Because obviously, people weren't happy with the way that Iron Fist was depicted. They weren't happy with the way that TV show went about. How come no one went after him? Is it because he's a man?
and he's not African American.
Oh,
or
yeah,
any other
he's
shade
white
of the rainbow.
Too.
He's a white man. And personally, as many problems as I had with that,
Yeah.
that particular depiction of that character,
Hmm.
again, there's still plenty of opportunity for them to do something, even with that particular actor,
Yeah.
that would impress me. So, personally, like, but smart people don't go after these people.
Right. It's going like this is a big issue with geek culture, and I don't know how personally to fight this other than to just tell people stop it, you idiots. But it is a big thing within geek culture that whenever like a woman or a person of color comes in and changes geek culture in some way or affects geek culture in some way, all of a sudden everyone just wants to get on the like gripe train.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like how many people did you hear badmouth Solo a Star Wars movie?
Quite a few, but not as many as Badmouth. Oh God, what it now? God, names today.
Last Jedi.
Not even Last Jedi, but even Force Awakens. What's her name? Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
People badmouthed her. Just people badmouth her, calling her character as a Mary Sue or whatever, and
Yeah.
went after her. She got off of social media too.
Mm-hmm.
So as bad as Solo was, and as decent as Force Awakens was,
Mm-hmm.
whether you think it was amazing or you think it was just okay or you think it was terrible,
Number three on my Star Wars list.
yeah, I personally think it was pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
if not great. But a lot of people gave her crap
Mm-hmm.
about that. Even with the movie doing as well as it did, a lot of people were giving her crap. But more people gave her crap than gave oh God, what is his name? Alden Ehrenreich crap for Solo. And it's just kind of, it seems weird, especially for a culture that's so steeped in the concept of we're only in this culture because we ourselves were bullied and ostracized and cut apart and segregated from quote unquote normal people.
Right. It is like I feel as though it's created this sense of elitism within gamer culture, geek culture. I meant to say geek culture, but gamer culture as well, because it's like we spent so many years creating this culture, this thing that is ours, because the rest of society just kind of shunned us for who we were, and so it's like, fine, we'll just make our own culture over here with blackjack and hookers, and it's going to be so much better than yours. But then the problem is that around the year 2000, yeah, I would say around 2000, is that geek culture started to explode and become a lot more mainstream, and a lot of the people, yeah, and a lot of people were just like, a good number of people were like, oh, cool, my thing is now fun. I can now just go out and just sort of be my own person. But then a very loud contingent of them were going, now hang on, you people ostracized us X number of years ago for being this way. How come now we're just being celebrated for the exact same thing that you hated us for? And that mindset is something that God, we need to get out of. I don't know how to tell people this other than to just stop, but like it's this ongoing trend within society that because I have suffered, you have to suffer too. And it's like that needs to stop.
Yeah, we do need to let that go.
Yeah.
A lot of God, where did I hear this? I think it was Dave Chappelle said it. As a matter of fact, the main problem with the cultures is that this necessity for revenge, and that the best thing you can do is let it go. Like he said, South Africa should have been a bloodbath when apartheid ended, but it wasn't, because the people there decided we're not going to give in to revenge. That that was their main thing. It was like, we're not mad at the people who were part of this thing that oppressed us. We're mad at this thing that oppressed us, and in order for us to get rid of that necessity for revenge, we need their help in order to take that system down. And I think that's not to equate the situations entirely, because apartheid was terrible,
right,
and it people actually literally died. But I think a sort of drawing a parallel between the situation is, we as geek culture, I think, need to learn to forgive the people who ostracized us and kicked us out of quote unquote normal society, and let them see, hey, all these things that we enjoyed, all this culture that we build, you can enjoy it too. And, we're not, gonna hold it against you that you ostracized us for it.
Right. Like, and the thing is, like, there's certain aspects to all of this that, like, we're not singing an official endorsement of certain things. Like, say, for example, the Ghostbusters movie remake, to use a random example, that was going to be a bad idea no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ghostbusters is, like, kind of like between Star Wars and it, that's sort of ground zero for where modern day geek culture sets itself. Like, that was the Bible of modern day geek culture, was those two films essentially.
Yeah.
And the original's really damn funny.
Mm-hmm.
But they've already tried to do extra stuff. They did several different TV shows. They did a video game. They even did a direct sequel, which, in my opinion, bad. So no matter what, that movie was going to be a bad idea, because you can't really try and, like, redo something that was so iconic for its time. That having been said, I thought the movie was kind of funny. I thought it was fine. Like, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it got a ton of ire, because not just because it was, a remake of a really well done film, but because it was all women. All women are doing this. How dare they? And it's just like, that mindset needs to leave. It needs to leave yesterday, and we gotta just quit it.
I agree. And I think part of the problem, though, does stem with Hollywood itself, and this by virtue of the fact that Hollywood is a very reactionary industry.
Yes.
Insofar as that, when Hollywood realizes that they've been doing something wrong, they overcorrect trying to make it right.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you see, like, okay, for instance, Hollywood depict black people in a certain way. And in a negative light for years.
Yes.
And once they finally figured out that that wasn't okay, that was wrong, that wasn't cool, you notice that there was a trend in Hollywood movies where black people would show up, where they would be the super sage, salient, old, wise black magic man. There's actually a Key and Peele sketch about it.
Oh yeah,
the magic black man, where black guys, they're perfect. They're the guy who has all the wisdom. They're where you go if you're having trouble. The black people are great. All of them are just great. And Hollywood just does that. They did it with us. They've done it with gay people.
Oh yeah.
They did the same exact thing, where the gay person was the sage, well font of advice. And now I think they're starting to realize that they've wronged women, and they're trying to overcorrect by let's just put women in every single thing. And I think the thing that we all need to come to grips with is that Hollywood's gonna do that.
Oh God, yeah.
And there's nothing that we can really say or do that's going to stop them from doing that. We kind of just need to let them figure out what the balance is on their own, and kind of adjust, because eventually they will. I mean, you're seeing now where Hollywood is finally starting to treat black people like, normal people and just, oh, okay, well, we've got this role in Star Wars. Who do we give it to? Oh yeah, there's this black actor named John Boyega. This is a black actor named John Boyega. Hell yeah, let's interview him. Let's interview him. Oh, he's really great. Let's put him in. Boom. And then that's just a normal role in the movie. Nobody's ever really talking about how he's, the only black guy in the galaxy.
Right.
And then there's, a Latin American actor, Oscar
Isaac,
thank you. Let's put him in there too. Okay, yeah. And it's not a big deal. He's just an actor. Put him in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think eventually Hollywood will get there with. It's starting, I think, to get there with gay people and lesbians, the LGBT community. It's starting to get there, and I think it'll eventually get there with women as well. And it'll take a little bit longer. It'll take a little bit longer than we seem to be willing to give it right now.
Yeah.
Because
Well, the important thing is that they are at least experimenting in some way. Like,
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, like Ocean's 11, I think, is a good example. I love the Ocean's films. I saw Ocean's 8 and I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was a fun movie. But a lot of people seem to sort of dismiss it because, oh, it's just a heist film with women. Granted, if I were in charge of anything, I would get a brand new heist film out every year because I just love heist films. Yeah. But I thought Ocean's 8 was good. Solid movie. It's just like, people criticize kind of a lack of tension within it. It's just like, of course they succeed in the end. By the way, spoiler alert, they succeed in the end. But, I mean, did you not think that was going to happen?
We're going to make a movie where all the heroes die at the end. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
we did do that.
This is a fun heist film about a bunch of about a bunch of con artists who are just doing their job as really good con artists. Did you not think they were going to succeed?
Right. Exactly. It's like it's not typical for anything else to happen other than the heroes to win at the end of the story. It's cliche for a reason, and that reason is because it works.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what people were expecting from that, but...
Yeah. But in general, that's just a fun movie. Like, I equate it to, like, a big Rube Goldberg machine. Ocean's 13 was the same way. You go into this knowing, okay, these people begin the movie kind of down on their luck. In 13, Ruben has been sent to the hospital because Billy Banks, like, sent him there. In Ocean's 8, Danny Ocean's sister just got out of jail, and she's got a score to settle with the guy who put her in jail. So their solution in both films, kind of a silly solution, is to plan a big heist.
Let's rob them.
Yeah, let's rob the place. And there's and of course, there's not a moment in this film where I thought to myself, uh-oh, they're not going to make it. Of course they're going to friggin' make it. That's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is that we are setting up a massive Rube Goldberg machine. And then when the moment is ready, we're going to drop the marble, and it, hits the pendulum, which
drop the dominoes. We're gonna watch them go.
Yeah, and it's fun. It is a lot of fun, and I wish, and I hope Hollywood keeps trying to experiment with these things, because it really, at this point, geek culture needs to get over itself, and the only way that Hollywood can help us get over ourselves is to just kind of keep going. Here's another reinterpretation with a lot more female characters. Here's another reinterpretation with a bunch of black people. Here's another reinterpretation with a bunch of LGBTQ plus members. Here's another reinterpretation with trans people. Here's another. And they're just going to have to keep on doing that. And eventually, I think geek culture is just going to be like, fine, this just exists now. And then guess what? A few years later, we're not even going to care. We're just going to have fun movies.
I genuinely hope that's the case, because I think... You're right. By doing that, what they'll end up doing is normalizing all of it, and that's the key. That's the point that you want to reach, and I think that's the point they reached. Like, again, they overcompensate, and then they come back to a sort of center. They swung too far over to the left and made everything bad, and they swung too far over to the right to try to make everything right. Now they just got to bring it back into the middle and make it normal. And that's the goal, and I think it's just we gotta be patient while this whole pendulum swings back and forth, kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, so I think we've been doing this for about an hour 15, hour and a half. I've kind of lost track of time, but this is the first episode of the Jump Drive Minds Geeks Against the Machine podcast.
Geeks Against the Machine.
I think that's the name that we decided on.
I love it.
Yeah, so if you guys enjoy the kind of content that we do, please subscribe to this channel, and hey, maybe help us out over at our Patreon. We are putting together a Patreon to sort of help some of us deal with the fact that we're no longer part of a previous channel, and that Patreon is over at patreon.com/jumpdriveminds if you want to hear more interesting commentary from us. Also, I've got some funny little sketch comedy things that I'm putting together, and maybe future projects, who knows. But in general, thank you for listening. My name is Ian.
My name is Sean.
And we will see you next time on Jump Drive Minds.
We love you all. Good night, Cleveland.
And other cities. Cleveland's a good city, but
especially Cleveland, though. We really like Cleveland. Neither of us are from Cleveland or in Cleveland at this time, but we really like you for some reason.
All right,
good. Today, tomorrow, next time it might be Honolulu or something. I don't know. But
Hallelujah.
today it's Cleveland.
All right, good night.
Good night.